So welcome back to another episode of Life After Work, where four 50-something-year-olds, I guess, retired men get together and chat about subjects from A to Z, basically, every week. With me today, I've got Phil Harrison, Ash Sharma, and the storyteller, who is Paul. Paul, I've just had a mental blank. I forgot your name. That's shocking.
It's Paul. That's what you just said.
I know. It's my brain injury.
I have this effect.
So Paul Davies, the storyteller. I haven't got my notes in front of me, and I'm awful. Anyway, what we thought we'd talk about today is what's going on in the world, where you've got people now, billionaires, people with more money than sense, perhaps, who are starting to do space travel. And this has been a growing trend. And the three that come to mind for me are Richard Branson with his Virgin Galactica thing, Jeff Bezos, I think, owner. He's the Amazon guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's been into space, and Elon Musk is launching a space program as well. And if I'm honest, this fascinates me because up until, say, the last 5 years, space travel has been the domain of major countries. Not even the UK can afford to do a space program, and even Russia struggles these days. But it's always been the domain of sovereign countries, if you like, to be able to do such things. And now here we have billionaire people, more money than sense probably, who are hiring the likes of NASA to launch their own private spacecraft. And I guess, part of me thinks, is this a good thing? Is it progressing mankind? Or is it like a vanity ego project for these guys and actually not a great thing at all? So I'm putting that there's a subject for today. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Well, to leap in there, I'm not very well informed on it, but hey, that's never let anybody anytime stop us from expressing an opinion on something, has it, on this forum? So here goes. Yeah, I can only think, given these guys are at the top of the commercial world, that it has commercial purpose rather than humanitarian or the purpose of furthering mankind. Because I think surely if it was the former, i.e. furthering progress of mankind, wouldn't they be just funding others to do it? It's the fact they're involved themselves, putting themselves very much at the front of it. It feels like marketing. I'm not sure what for, but unless it's just to turn it ultimately into a commercial venture, paying passengers and the like. Don't know.
I think with Richard Branson, it is to do with ferrying passengers into space, and there is an element of treating it like that, like an excursion sort of a thing. I think Musk's idea, if I remember, I think his idea was to do asteroid mining or something, if I remember. I might be completely made that up, so apologies if I have. But I seem to remember that's what he wanted to do. So you're right, Phil. There is a commercial element to it. They're not doing this for the fun of it, really. They're not doing it for a humanitarian element to it, because if they wanted to, Jeff Bezos, whatever his name is, and Musk, if they wanted to be truly humanitarian, all of their billions, they could wipe out infections and vaccinations in Africa and poverty. They could do so much more on this planet. So, I don't think it's humanitarian, because there are easier ways of doing it. I think it's just expanding their legacy, and it's expanding the commercial operations, personally speaking, anyway.
I think I have to agree. If I could just jump in with one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. I think it is very much a commercial thing. And look at me, I've got to space and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Because to do something for mankind, although I am very excited, don't get me wrong here, I am very excited about the projects that's going on and space travel in general. I think it's amazing. I really do. But have we benefited? Maybe someone can correct me on this. I don't think we've benefited from the very first day that man landed on the moon. They all say it's for mankind. What? Apart from perhaps a better understanding of the planets and the asteroids and the galaxy, how has it benefited mankind to waste those tons and tons of fuel and money
absolutely.
and go up to an inaccessible to the general population, an inaccessible area? I'm not sure when they say it's for mankind. I think that's a bit of a smokescreen, because it really, do you know what? It's America and Russia all over again, but with your rich entrepreneurs. America and Russia were in a space race. It wasn't for mankind. It was to see who could get up to space or get into the moon first. And I think that's very much the same with these guys. They have more money than they know what to do with on Earth. The only option is to, well, we've done everything we can do here. Let's see if we can go on space travel.
But as Ash says, how sad is that? Let's face it, we have massive problems on Earth.
Exactly, absolutely.
And rather than look to solve those, they're looking to space. I agree with you, Paul, though, that I'm fascinated in it. And ultimately, don't they say that the future of the human race is off this planet, because at some point our sun will burn out. So if we want to look very far into the future, we will have to look beyond the realms of this planet. That said, I'm not sure we'll get there at this rate. And as you said yourself, the concern for me would be what seem to be pleasure cruises in space these days.
Exactly.
The climate impact, isn't it? How many tons of fuel are they burning and adding to the problem, not directing their billions to solving the problem?
Yeah. I mean, that's the irony of it. It makes me laugh. You know, Amazon is going on about its packaging, and every little parcel is this, that, and the other. And like you just said, Phil, how much fuel is he burning to get his the Shepherd rocket back into space? It's just absolutely ludicrous. It's just, I mean, you just alluded to it there before, Paul. You've got the initial national vanity project where Russia and America were in a space race. Now you've got individual billionaires in their own vanity projects. If they wanted to do something, surely it would make sense. They've got multi-billion-pound empires, so they know how to do a coherent project, coherent business plan. Get together, make a proper project whereby the idea is to get, for example, a base on moon. I know it sounds a bit far-fetched. Let's do that. How do we do it? How do we organize it? Come together, not do these willy-nilly things. It just smacks of, like you said, look at me. It's not enough to have the biggest yacht in the world now. They've got to do something else, haven't they?
I think it is. That next step. You've got the biggest yachts. What next?
Exactly.
Do you think with the current Pandora paper scandal that they're looking to do off-planet accounts?
You
never know, do you?
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine when the Inland Revenue Corps, whatever, their equivalent, the IRS comes for Bezos, goes, where are your accounts? Oh, they're on the moon. Sorry.
It's
interesting.
Sorry, Phil. I was just going to say, I think it is a vanity thing. Don't get me wrong, again, chaps and listeners. If somebody was to say to me, "You can come on a free flight and go up there," I'd snap the hand off, because
would you?
It really does. I would. Yeah, I absolutely would. It's that one. You can do anything you want to, really, on Earth. If you want to go to see the Great Wall of China, everything's accessible now, isn't it? It wasn't so like 30 years ago. But one, to prove my theory that the world is flat, and two, just to do that anti-gravity stuff. I'd love it. I would love it. I really would.
There's something to be said to see to see Mother Earth from space. We've all seen pictures of it, haven't we? It'd be nice to see it yourself. But yeah, notwithstanding that, I mean, I just think the billions they've spent on this could have been so used, in different ways, where there's just so many problems that humanity has got in terms of, health, in terms of energy, in terms of power. It's just everything. There's just so much to be done here. Let's explore that first. Let's do it first.
I agree.
And then work upward. But as I said, I'm not against going into space, but if you are going to do something, get together. Have a strategy whereby it's an umbrella group and they finance it all coherently and do an actual. So because we don't know what the hell they're up to, but if they suddenly said, yeah, the four of us are going to get together, we're going to spend 500 billion, i.e. $500 billion or something, and we want a moon base on the moon. Obviously, moon base on the moon. We want a moon base. In which case, It's silly, I think, but at least you can see the strategy, seeing where they're getting to.
You're absolutely right.
You're
absolutely right, Ash. Yeah, you see, the thing is, if there's 4 of them, and let's just say it costs each of them £1 billion to go up there. What they should do, like you say, all get together and they'll spend £1 billion getting
exactly.
The other 3 billion, go and get rid of poverty in third worlds.
Absolutely.
Go put schools in.
Yeah.
Go and get. Do you know what? I don't understand, and this is very strange to me with billionaires. Yes, they want the big yachts and they want to do this and want space travel. I can't remember anybody looking deeply and investing into sustainable energy. I've you know.
I suppose Elon Musk's got his finger in that particular pie, hasn't he?
Well, he doesn't make a big song and dance about it. No, he doesn't make a big song and dance about it, does he? It should be our resources, gas, and maybe not in our lifetime, but they're going to run out. They are going to run out. So we need some form of energy. What's the one that's quite dangerous because no one dare look at it? Is it fusion?
Not hydrocells, no.
No, it's the one where they. I wish it was
fission, nuclear fission.
Yes, nuclear fission. That's something to do with water, isn't it? And I don't know I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, but they're not exploring it, though, are they?
But yeah, because it's apparently it's very dangerous to harbour the energy out of it.
Yeah.
But with all that money, can they not find? Man can find a way to make it safe to use. They said nuclear power was unsafe, and it is unsafe. There's disaster. Look at Chernobyl, but they still use nuclear power. So,
but is this not a case of these guys get bored, right? Because if you look at somebody like Branson, he did he had the yacht that could go around the world and at a record pace, and I think that they just get bored and they want to do something with their money. So they might be investing in a lot of other things, but actually this is the shiny thing that's, and it's also a bit of brand advertising. Virgin use the whole Galactica thing to push their brand, etc., on a global scale. So I think this is just very rich people who get bored and want to.
But have you bought anything Virgin on the strength of Galactica? I mean,
I'm not sure it works as a marketing.
No, but isn't that really sad though? I mean, at the end of the day, they've got so many billions, and all they're thinking about potentially is enhancing their brand. I mean, if you want to make a legacy, which spans the ages, surely you can go through being the one who combats poverty, being the one who combats starvation, or works out, like you just said, Paul, an energy solution. What better way than to be forever remembered? Say, do you remember Bezos? He's the one who basically wiped out poverty in Africa. He's the
Yeah, surely, because history's just going to remember them as greedy,
exactly,
aren't they?
Yeah,
they'll go down in history like the Borgias as decadent, and rather than.
Absolutely.
But that's where Bill Gates and Melissa Gates are good, because they have their Gates Foundation, and they do a lot of that type of stuff. Yeah. Whereas these other guys seem to go down a completely different, egotistical route, even though they might be doing things that support, famine relief and whatever else. It seems the big glossy thing they're doing is spending lots of money, millions, to go up to space. It's mad.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, and again I'll be corrected. Some quite a while ago they were on about genetically modified crop seeds.
Yeah, you never hear that anymore, do you?
Exactly, because somebody came out and went, "Oh, you can't do that. It's we don't know what we're going to," and you never heard of it again. But if you could get like seeds that grow in these desert type countries and produce, whether it's corn or wheat or whatever, wouldn't you like to be known for the man or woman who provided crops for desert type countries and therefore saved lives?
A bit like the man from Del Monte.
I spent all my money going in a rocket to space that no one's ever going to do in our lifetime. You'll get the Millionaires at 250 grand a seat, is it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just when you're on about that, you're on about those the grains which are the genetically modified. You'd be surprised. There are, the company Monsanto. They actually are doing a lot of genetically modified crops. You'll find it in some of the bread, the flour, the rice that you have, and it is actually being used now.
Oh, right, fair enough.
Yeah, so it is being used, but
it's just we don't hear. This is the worrying thing about the media, which I'm sure we've done before, which is we're so conditioned by what we hear in the media, like we've just demonstrated. If it's not in the media, we don't think it's happening. We forget about things if they're not.
Yeah.
So you wonder why the media doesn't cover it anymore.
Because they don't want to create a major thing, do they? Because you'll suddenly get all these groups coming up. Oh, we don't want mutation. We don't want this, because it's just a very emotive topic, isn't it? Genetically modified. And it just brings up, I mean, you just have to look at what the anti-vaxxers are doing, at the moment. You can just imagine what, if they got hold of that, what would happen.
Do you think, sorry, I was just going to say, do you think scientists or do you think they curtail and bow down to the minority of public opinion? For example, cloning. They did Dolly the sheep, didn't they? And that was the big thing. And then everybody was in uproar. Well, not everybody, because I wasn't in uproar, but there was a few people in uproar. And it kind of closed down. Scientists are trying to advance medicine and look at all different options. But every time they come up with something that isn't the norm, they get shut down by these minority groups, not majority groups, minority, but only the ones that can be bothered to go out to Piccadilly Gardens or Trafalgar Square with a placard and say no more cloning, blah blah blah.
Well, I wonder, Paul, whether it's another example of like the GM foods. That it's still being done. We just don't hear about it anymore. Maybe because it's not the first thing. Now it's not the breakthrough. As they're just gradually developing this technology further, maybe it doesn't make the news anymore for that reason. But it's maybe there are 6 Boris Johnsons wandering around causing chaos.
Could you imagine?
He's doing his best to clone himself in other ways, but we'll leave that.
But the whole thing reminds me of Moonraker, the James Bond movie. And the guy who tried to colonize space and was taking people up. And it just goes to show sometimes to see what's going to be happening in the future, we just have to look to Hollywood.
Absolutely. I go back to this. I'll pick up another point and then come to this one, that I think in the 60s, we say it was a vanity project between nations. I think it was actually probably a fear-driven project, about the fear that if Russia got to dominate space, or USA got to dominate space, that they would dominate the world via that. It would be, i.e. it was part of the arms race as such. But I think now it's more commercially driven. And I've forgotten what point you made that I was going to respond to, but that just triggered a thought in me when we were talking before.
I guess the thing that's on my mind is, can we actually trust that these people, with the power that they have, because I think it just shows the power and the access that these people have, that they could do something that we used to think was the realm of major global powers, right? Can we trust them to do the right thing with this?
Probably not, because they'll be driven by their own interests and commercial interests. And I've remembered the point now. It was to say, so what is driving them? And I think it probably is an exploration of technology in the general sense, space technology, to see what commercially things can be driven from it. So for example, I think the original space race, didn't that lead to the technology that was brought us satellites? But as you say, it was NASA controlled. Wasn't Garmin a spin-off from NASA? The fact that they do their GPS sports watches now all comes from the NASA satellite technology originally.
A lot of I suppose a lot of the computing power that was involved.
Yeah, because GPS came from NASA. Russia had one, didn't it? GLONASS, and Europe's got one now. So I think that's what's driving it. I don't know how specifically or otherwise, whether they've got certain things within it that they know they're driving for, or whether they're just going out there, exploring, seeing what can be done, knowing that something will spring from it. Whether that's Mr. Bezos, maybe he's trying to deliver things to Mars within 24 hours. I don't know, but
you've got the thing is, with this easy access to space now, we've got to remember the possible evil people of the past, Blofeld, Goldfinger. They all wanted to rule the world, didn't they? And they all had things up there, like diamonds are forever, a big laser, a gold laser that Goldfinger put up there. We've got to be very careful, gentlemen.
Well, absolutely.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's. I'd take your point about things being developed from NASA. Yeah, I like that. I like the fact of the Garmin. I didn't know that was a spin-off from NASA, so to speak. But they were, as you put it, they were nationally funded projects, weren't they? I don't know if any good for mankind will come out of this.
No, I don't think it will, Paul, because I mean, if you're looking at the actual motivations, this is almost how we all started. Is good can only come from this if the initial motivation is basically a good motivation. As what Phil was saying before, a lot of these were based upon commercial interests anyway, in terms of Virgin with his, passengers, and Musk with God knows what he wants to do. And, all if your underlying motivation is commercial motivation, then it's going to be very, very difficult. But because if you've got national motivation, they're less concerned about trying to make money of it. I think they're more concerned about the actual project itself. They're looking at what do they learn from this? If they go to space, what have they learned from that journey? How can they apply it? I don't think these guys are learning anything. They're just, potentially they get a bit of advertising and they just think they're big in space. And like we've all said, it's just a vanity project. I don't think anything is going to come majorly out of this because there's no coherent strategy in the very beginning to learn anything in the first place.
No, I agree. I know we give politicians a real hammering on this program sometimes, but I still think that's preferable because at least there should be transparency in those areas, whereas there can be no transparency. There's no right that we have to transparency of Bezos's dealings or Branson or Musk.
But the thing is, Rod, Phil, with Virgin Atlantic, he's never covered up the fact that he was doing it solely for commercial purposes, isn't it? And get passengers up to there and slide. That's it. So he's been very open with what he wants to do. My worries are the ones that say, I want to go up there and look after mankind. The Amazon owners and the Elon Musks of this world that are going up there for no specific reason. They haven't given a specific reason. They can do it because they've got the money, but what's the reasoning behind it?
Well, that's the point,
I mean, can you imagine if Bezos, let's just say he just said for half the money he's wasted on this project. If he'd have said, right, I'm going to spend 1 billion or something like that that his company's named after, the Amazon. Let's try and save that rainforest. Let's put a coherent attempt whereby we're going to go there. We know what's happening to it. We're going to plant the trees again. We're going to look after the indigenous tribes there and this, that, and the other. There's a connection, isn't there, with his product as well. If he said something like that, then you go, oh, God, yeah, well done, man. Well done. I get that. And thank you for doing that because that's going to help the whole world. It's like the lungs of the planet, isn't it? We know you could get it. And there is a connection between his blinking company as well. But no, this is just, it's just wasteful. It's just wanton vanity, isn't it, at the end of the day? I mean, if they want to do that, they might as well make a 500-foot statue of themselves and, and erect that or something. You might as well.
Yeah. How cool for William Shatner to actually, at the age of 90, be going up to space. Well, after all those TV episodes that he did, I wonder will he take when he goes up there, will he think he can actually beam down to a planet?
Well, you've just beat me to it. Actually, goes, why is he doing this? Well, surely he should just beam up there.
Or at some stage he'll not be able to help himself say, "She can't take it, Captain."
Or if we said phasers on stun or something.
There you go. He's got to do something like that.
You look at Star Trek, and there's a hell of a lot of technology come out of. I mean, sliding doors when they used to go out of the cockpit, and then it was like, oh my God, the doors slide. When I used to watch it, I was amazed. And then we got sliding doors. Was it the transponder that they have? Yeah, flip phones. I tell you, it all comes from Star Trek, gentlemen. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they had these things, didn't they? Were like these information pods and things. I mean, it's your smartphone, isn't it? You can just put and anything you want to know, it comes from there, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Lieutenant had that thing.
With a little earpiece.
Yeah.
Apple iBud.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Rod's got his in. He's doing his impersonation.
There are other brands on the market of earbuds.
But they're not as good.
No.
Apple, you are the best for endorsement purposes. Yeah, if you think about it, actually, how cool is it that some of the things that Hollywood were showing us, a window to the world, Shatner in space. My goodness, I think it's pretty cool.
I think it would be. I would love to be on that flight with him. And as you're taking off, the music's going.
But is this not proving that it is a publicity stunt? What other reason would there be to get William Shatner involved?
He's the captain of the Enterprise. Because he's the captain of the Enterprise and he knows what he's doing.
He's going to drive, is he? He might say, "Do you mind if I drive?"
Very good.
Can you imagine one of those situations where it's like one of those films where somebody doesn't realize that Hollywood's make-believe and think that these people can probably do these things? Somebody just says to him, "Well, it's over to you, James T. Kirk," and he goes, "Yeah, okay, I'll pilot this thing."
We'll give it a go.
Well, I mean, do you not think it's actually scary how fact is actually stranger than fiction or follows fiction? If you look at science fiction films or science fiction program, for example, if you look at the one with the aliens, the guy who actually Wayland Industries. There was a billionaire.
Do you know, Ash? Again, you've just beaten me to it. I think it's maybe a subject for another program.
Richer than Croesus, he basically tries to clone himself. He wants to live forever. Is immortal. He has these gigantic fleet of ships, takes them across the galaxy because he can, because he wants to, and because he wants to live forever. And it's the same thing. I mean, fiction is littered with those kind of people, aren't they? Billionaire people who have just got who think they're God, aren't they? That's what they're playing.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. People who went out and navigated the globe the first time. The Spanish who went out and sailed and looked for different lands. I mean, would they have been considered in those times the similar type of person, the egotistical,
they're explorers, crazy? Though. I can understand that, Rod. I mean, they're actually exploring. They're individual guides with a ship, and they often had to borrow money, or they were doing it on the auspices of the Queen of the King of Spain or the King of England.
Well, again, they were a combination of national and commercial interests. It was about individual nations going out to try and reap the reward.
I mean, that's more akin to like Scott of the Antarctic or Ralph Fiennes. They're explorers testing themselves. They're more of a romantic ideal, aren't they? The
individuals were, but I suspect the nations behind them.
Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah, they was very, very.
But all I'm saying is, are we not now in the 21st century equivalent of those people who went out and did those things?
Like I say, I think the difference is the motive behind them. As we've discussed, I'm not sure that it is I think genuinely, albeit I've said that I think the nations were after finding things that would be of use to them to promote their domination of the world. Yeah. I'm not sure that's what it's about now on a national level, but I think it's individuals' selfish aims this time around.
Yeah, I think so, definitely.
The people like Columbus, sailed that. I mean, he became a great detective, didn't he?
Oh, good grief.
These are the jokes, folks. Keep tuning in.
Well, going back to I think it's a subject maybe for another podcast that, literature and film, what can it tell us about the future? Because actually, Ash, my favourite series of films is the Ridley Scott Aliens. It's more than a trilogy now, isn't it? But
yeah.
And the general theme of those is quite dystopian. It doesn't paint a great picture of our future. So let's hope that, going back to the Star Trek thing, where that was all bright and shiny and brave new worlds and new frontiers, if the picture we're getting out of the Hollywood of the last 20 years actually does come true, then we are well and truly goosed.
Yeah. That's a very, very good point, and that's a great podcast idea. I want to go back to the era of Barbarella with Jane Fonda. Great.
What is it you like about that film?
It was very interesting, good acting. There was nothing about
the dialogue, isn't it, Paul? The dialogue's amazing, isn't it?
The dialogue is fantastic.
Really, really
I particularly like the character development.
So realistic, the sets, aren't they?
Well, I think we should say now, Starlog 102, our voyage has ended today.
Okay.
And well, how would James T. Kirk have ended this? Thinking about him, was there some sort of
captain's log supplemental? Remember, he always gave a supplemental. I didn't know what supplemental meant when I was young. They go, captain's log supplemental. I would just like to say Spock had played a blind over this, and he used to go on, and he used to be some moral to the story or something.
Where the hell? Where did William Shatner come from? Bloody Yorkshire? Oh, Scotland. I'll tell you. That's it. What the hell? I didn't know he was from Yorkshire.
Well, of course he did. William Shatner.
They'll claim him. So they'll claim him.
Is he the only one that's still around from Star Trek, the original series then?
Yeah, I think he is, actually.
No, I bet there's one or two more.
Well, the main ones have gone, haven't they?
Yeah. Do you know who I would like to actually sit down and have a dinner with and a chat and a beer? William Shatner would be one of them, and David Hasselhoff. I think they're so funny, and they're just like legends, aren't they? Legends, the Hoff and Shatner.
And do you know what's good about them? So self-deprecating. They don't take themselves seriously at all. And actually, Shatner is a really clever guy as well. He's written a few books as well, hasn't he?
And he flew with the Enterprise.
Well, you know what? Maybe we should do is just be ambitious and see if we can get the Hoff or Shatner on this podcast sometime.
Oh, yes.
That'd be amazing.
We should try.
Yes, Baywatch this space.
Right. Well, look.
On that note,
until the next time on a starship far, far away, we'll be back. So we got a subject for next week, I think, haven't we? Have we just come up with them?
Science fiction and what was it again?
I was doing
maybe
the fade
we've done
out.
that now, but we'll see.
I was doing the fade out music then. I was doing the start.
Go for it.
Very good.
And we'll see you next week.
Haunting. Have a great week, guys.
Over and out.
Beam me up.
And fade.